down into your right foot and let the right side of your pelvis come away from the floor. So your pelvis tilts towards the left. And then you stop pressing, you let the right side of your pelvis come back to the floor. So remember, in this movement, we're pressing into our right foot. We're letting our pelvis tilt towards the left. So we still keep contact with the floor through the left side of the pelvis. I think you all know this, but just in case, just in case we're not clear what's going on. Good. So as you press into your right foot, send your right knee forwards over your footprint. So you're sort of sending that right knee away from you. You're feeling the right side of the pelvis lift off the floor. Good. And then you're placing the right side of the pelvis back down onto the ground. That's nice. And just make sure you're not lifting up on the left, because I can't see everyone that clearly. Good. Make sure your pelvis is rolling towards the left, but not lifting up. Okay, so just do this maybe once or twice more. And I find this is such a helpful movement for, and so many levels, for sort of releasing tension around my pelvis, for just sort of calming me down, making me feel better. Okay, the next time your pelvis comes back onto the floor, you're going to cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top. So keep your right foot standing on the floor. That's it. And then come back to pressing into your right foot. And now let yourself roll across your upper back as well. So you're rolling towards the back of your left shoulder. Good. And you're letting your head roll towards the left. And you might reach your right fingertips out on the floor away from you. So they sort of reach over towards the left. That's nice. So we've got this feeling that the whole of ourselves now is rolling over towards the left. Repeat this a few times. So this movement can be really nice for this sense of just sort of easing out, massaging across the back of our body. So maybe once or twice more. And then you're going to uncross your arms and lengthen both legs out on the floor. And just see for a moment, how does it feel to lie long? Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you, let your legs be long and heavy on the floor. You can give them a roll or a bounce. Good. And then bend both knees, stand both feet on the floor. And then fold your left knee into your chest. Hold around the top of your left knee. Have a couple of breaths there. So left knee folded in towards you. Notice how it feels as you fold that left knee in towards your chest. There's this chance to lengthen out a little bit more through the lower back of the pelvis. Yes, and then you can lengthen your right leg out on the floor. So keep the left knee folded in towards you, lengthen your right leg out on the floor. Have a breath or two here, just feeling that contrast between the two legs. So the folding in the left, and then open through the front of the hip joint in the right. And the right leg's heavy on the ground. And then bring your left foot to stand on the floor. That's it. So left knee bent, left foot standing on the floor. Come to that pressing movement. So just let your arms rest by your sides for the moment. Come to pressing down into your left foot. Letting your pelvis lift on that left side, letting your pelvis tilt towards the right. Remember to send your knee forwards, away from you, over your left foot. And just make sure your left foot's in a comfortable place for you to press into it. I can't quite see Nicola, but your left foot looks like it's very close in towards you. It might be, yeah, I mean, you might not, yeah, just have a little play around. You don't want it too far away from you, but you also don't want it too close in. So you want your foot in a place where it's easy to press into it. And sometimes that takes a little bit of playing around. Easy and as effortless as possible. Okay, and then whenever you like, you can move on to the variation where you cross your arms over your chest. This time you have your left arm on top. That's it, good. And now you're rolling across the back of the pelvis, across the upper back, letting your head roll. So all of your weight is rolling towards the right side of your body, but still keep that feeling that your knee is traveling forwards rather than over to the right. It just means we get a bit more of this feeling of opening through the front of the left thigh, through the front of the hip joint. If we send the knee, that's very nice, Nicola, good. If we send the knee away from us. So 2 or 3 more times, do this movement. Yeah, very nice, good. And then again, whenever you're ready, you can uncross your arms, you can lengthen out that left leg. You can just lie long for a moment, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Feel the length of your body on the ground. You might want to uncross your arms now, let them rest on the ground. Feel the length of your body on the ground from the back of your head to your heels. And then from there, you're going to fold your knees into your chest, both knees now. Hold around your knees. Do a little bit of rocking from side to side if you like, a little bit of rocking from side to side, a little bit of circling around the back of your pelvis. Very nice, whatever feels good here. And then the last thing you can do here is take your legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out. Yes, and your arms too, if you like. So from here, we're going to make our way over onto hands and knees. There's a great rush, so take your time. You could keep your socks on for a little bit longer. We're going to do a few cat things first of all. So I'm surprised how it seems a bit chillier today after yesterday. Maybe it's just the lack of sun here in Brighton. So coming onto hands and knees. Good. So when you've arrived on hands and knees, you're going to come into some of your familiar cat movements and see how they feel today. So how does it feel to round your back to the ceiling? How does it feel to dip your spine down to the floor? When you round your back to the ceiling, let your head hang so the back of your neck lengthens out. When you dip your spine down to the floor, let your gaze travel forwards on the ground. So a couple more times rounding and dipping, and then we're going to, in a moment, add some rocking back into this. So we're going to keep with the cat movements, but we're going to round our back to the ceiling, stay rounded to rock your hips back over your heels, and then come forwards, letting your spine dip down a little bit. It doesn't have to be a huge dipping down. So I've got my feet flat for this, but you can have your toes tucked under if you prefer. So round your back, stay rounded, rock your hips back over your heels. And then as you come forwards, let your spine dip down a little bit. And it might be you bend your elbows slightly at that point. So rounding up, staying rounded to rock your hips back over your heels, and then dipping your spine down as you come forwards. Now, when you come forwards, you're not trying to get your chest down to the floor, so you don't have to dip down a huge amount. And just carry on with that a couple more times. Rounding up, rocking back, dipping down to come forwards. And then whenever you're ready, either this time or next time, when you rock back, stay back in child pose. So come to let your elbows rest on the ground, perhaps, and maybe your forehead comes onto the ground, or you could rest your forehead on, have one hand on top of the other, and the forehead resting on the back of the hands. So just settle in child pose for a couple of breaths. See how it feels. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And And then we're going to come back onto hands and knees, and this time do a little bit of tail wagging. So imagining we have a tail and wagging that tail to the right and to the left. So what we're feeling here is one side of our body shortens, the other side lengthens. Now there's a few little variations you can do. If your lower back feels tight, rounding your back slightly, so looking back and wagging your tail. Or you could be doing these ones where we move the lower legs. So you could move one leg out to the side and look down towards that foot. And feel how that side of the body shortens as you do that. And then of course you could repeat the same thing on the other side. So your lower leg comes out to the side, you look along on the floor towards your foot and feel that side of the body shorten. And then obviously you can move both legs together from side to side. And if you're going slowly, you can look at them. If you're going fast, you might not want to. And we're going to come into dog pose. And I thought just before we come into dog, it might be let's touch the band, yeah? So you're just coming on, yeah, coming onto the back of your hands. Keep your weight and stretch the wrist in the other direction. And then plant your hands down, tuck the toes under, exhale, rock your hips back over your heels and come up into your dog pose. Just a few breaths up there. I'm just wondering if I cut because everyone's frozen. I'll trust that you're still with me, even though I can't see you. Yes, so in dog pose, good. Okay, I can see people are in dog. That's good. So a few breaths in dog pose. Now, from dog pose, we're going to be, you're either directly from dog or coming back onto hands and knees. We're going to be coming into lunge. So you just decide whether you want to step from dog into a lunge or whether you prefer to come back onto hands and knees and step 1 foot forwards. And so arrive in your lunge and have a few breaths here. So of course in lunge, we've got this feeling of opening out through the front of the back leg hip joint, the back leg thigh. So all those people who went on a long walk yesterday, very good to stretch out here after that. If you like, in between sides of lunge, you can step back into dog and then back into lunge. You don't have to. You can change sides of lunge on hands and knees. But if you'd like to step into dog between sides of lunge, you can. So we'll swap onto the other side of lunge, either from dog or from hands and knees. And have a few breaths inside too of lunge. So again, this feeling of how is it to give the weight of the pelvis to the floor. So look, your back toes could be tucked under or flat, whatever your back knee prefers. This feeling of opening through the front of the back leg thigh and the hip joints. Now, after this second lunge, we're all going to go into a dog pose, and from dog pose into a forward bend, and then down through a squat. So if you don't want to go straight from lunge into dog pose, come onto hands and knees, and then we'll move into dog pose. We'll have a few breaths in dog pose before we come on into the forward bend. Just see how it feels to be back in dog, bending one knee at a time, letting your head go, exhaling. Nice big planted hands. And then we're going to walk our hands in towards our feet. So little by little, transferring our weight completely into our feet. And when you're in your forward bend, if you like, you can bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs, or you can release your arms to the floor. So just see how it feels to be in a forward bend. And then from this forward bend, we're going to make our way down through a squat. So we're going to start to bend the knees forwards over the feet. It's fine if our heels come up. We don't need to worry about that. Because from this squat, we're going to roll forwards and bring the knees down onto the floor, keeping the toes tucked under. So just very briefly, we're going to visit this delightful kneeling foot stretch with our toes tucked under. And just let it drop the shoulders for a moment. See how wonderful this feels. So you've got your toes tucked under and your knees on the ground. Probably don't want to stay there too long, but again, very good after those long walks. Come forwards onto your hands, untuck your toes, drum your feet on. And then in turn, lengthen each leg out behind you. Tucking your toes under. So you really get that feeling of opening, of lengthening through the back of the leg, the back of the knee, the calf, and the same on the other side. And when you've done that on both sides, you're going to sit back over your heels in kneeling. Now, if this isn't comfortable, put a cushion. I think all of you are okay in kneeling, aren't you? Yeah, you can always put a cushion in between your bottom and your heels or under the tops of your feet. Because what I want us to do is this sort of going backwards movement where we're trying to scoop our pelvis under. So to Radrasana, I think he's doing this, but this going backwards movement where we're trying to stretch into our quads. So again, very good for the walks. I think I went on a run on Monday, so that's why I was doing all these movements. Good. So just how does it feel to go back? Trying not to arch in the lower back, trying to keep quiet through the front ribs, feeling a bit of a stretch through the fronts of the thighs. Good. We won't stay here too long. We're going to come back onto hands and knees, but this time into a slightly longer hands and knees position. So your hand will be further forward, your shoulders. And you're going to see how does it feel to just start this rocking forwards movement of the pelvis that would take us towards face up dog, but we don't necessarily need to go all the way to start with. That's it. So just sort of take it easy. What does it feel to take your weight into your arms, to let your pelvis rock forwards? You don't need to go all the way. If you could go a little bit further, let the pelvis hang. And then we'll go into the moment, but what I'd like you to do is come back. You come back into kneeling or come back and sit down in between your heels. Yeah? So in kneeling or in sitting in between your heels. So you can really choose whichever you prefer, because we're going to do the same movement. The same movement of going back. So it doesn't matter whether you're sitting in between your heels or you're sitting on your heels. If you're sitting in between your heels, just make sure you're obviously down on the floor or a cushion. And then this same movement of how does it feel to try to sort of scoop the pelvis under as you lean back. And it's good in these ones not to stay here too long, because often the main thing we can feel, and Jan, I'm with you here because I feel it too, is the shoulders. The shoulders and the neck can get a bit tense in this. Not that you looked like that was the case, but I know you can experience that. So just so we can feel the thighs lengthening out. We'll come back to our moving towards face up dog. So this long hands and knees position. And I thought you could, if you liked, do your tail wagging movements. So you can wag your tail from side to side, move back towards child pose, and wag your tail from side to side and sneak yourself forwards into face up dog. And I was only just thinking about it then and thinking maybe this is why the dogs are so good at face up dog, because they wag their tails so much. So, yeah, just a few times, how does it feel? So it's a bit like a snaky sort of movement, snaking your way forwards and back. And only go as far into face up dog as feels comfortable for you. Good, and I know some of you like this movement. It's a nice feeling of opening through the front of the body, but sometimes our lower back is less happy with it than others. Okay, and then we're just going to have a few quiet cycles of breath in child pose before we come up into standing. Child pose or kneeling. So if you prefer being in kneeling, that's fine. Just settle and rest and gather your attention into your breathing. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. See if you can stay close to your breath. Feeling your breath for another 2 cycles of breath. As the out breath leaves you, softening as much as possible. Softening, settling. So we're going to, when you're ready, one more dog pose, walking the hands in towards the feet into a forward bend, this time rolling up into standing. You can come back onto hands and knees, good, lovely. See how it feels to lengthen out in dog. Might feel quite nice after those face up dogs, those delightful sort of kneeling things. Few breaths, enjoying. Yes, so if you come into dog pose and you think, oh, that feels quite nice, then definitely stay there and enjoy it. Letting the head go, resting down through your arms. And then again, whenever you're ready, walking your hands in towards your feet. You can have breath you in your forward bend. We're going to be doing some more forward bends, so maybe don't stay particularly long. And then rolling up into standing. Good, very nice. Arrived in standing. We all seem to be hoping now the internet's not cutting out so much. So let's do this loose, easy swinging twist to start with. So what I thought we would do today is some of the movements from Moon Salute, but without the sort of funny turning from side to side, because sometimes that's a little bit frustrating. I think particularly on Zoom, when we've got our mat orientated in one position and our device all sorted. So yeah, that's my plan. So it will take us into some twisting movements, some side lengthening movements, some balances. So a couple more times, swinging your arms, just that lovely sense of the whole of your body moving. Fantastic. Very nice. And then let's settle down with our feet a little distance apart and bringing the hands into prayer pose in front of our heart. So take a moment, you could close your eyes here. You could feel your feet on the floor. If you like to sort of sway a little bit from side to side, you can do that. So just taking a moment to feel yourself in standing, footprints on the floor, hands in prayer pose. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then opening your eyes, letting a breath come in, and as you exhale, taking your arms down and then up. Let the shoulders fall away from your ears, and then you're going to curl down, really gathering in, rounding down. Elbows coming towards the thighs, they can stay there, or you can release your arms towards the ground. Knees can be as bent as you like. Couple of breaths in your forward bend, feeling very rooted through your heels, letting the body, the arms, the head tumble forwards. And then as you exhale, sinking into your heels, rolling back up in stand. Good. Once you arrive in landing, take your feet a little bit wider apart. So it could be as wide as the narrow edge of your mat if you're facing the narrow edge of your mat. And if like me, you're not, then just taking the feet a bit wider. And then we do these side lengthening movements where one arm comes up and the other arm is heavy and floppy. And we go from side to side. And if you like, which I like, is I take my pelvis towards the raised arm side to get a bit more this length through the side of the body, but you don't have to do that. So one arm up and the other arm down is really floppy. So we've got this contrast of the stretching arm and the floppy arm, good. And you could stay for a couple of breaths or you could keep going from side to side. And then in a moment, we'll take this forwards into a forward bend. Okay, this could go from side to side forever. So in a moment, pausing in the center, we're going to go into a forward bend. It is quite nice, I find, to come to that halfway point when my feet are wider, rest my elbows on my thighs, and then maybe release the arms down, keeping the knees a bit bent. But again, whatever works for you. That's nice, good. Good. And again, just that, yes, you could be shifting your weight a little bit from side to side if you like, bending one knee more, bending the other knee. That's completely up to you. Good. Okay. And then sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Lovely. So we're going to be from here. I've turned around on my mat because we're going to be stepping 1 foot forwards on the mat. And I think I'm not going to say, I'm going to say lefts and rights. Yes, maybe I will say lefts and rights. So I think we'll start by stepping the left foot forwards. And I think, yes, hopefully that will help us all keep straight on what we're doing. So you're going to step your left foot forwards and just do a little bit of toing and froing to start with. So shifting your weight forwards and back. Weight comes into the front foot, weight comes into the back foot. And in doing this, we're just sort of encouraging ourselves to drop our awareness down into our feet, to really feel our feet on the floor. And then eventually, we'll let the feet settle down. And at this point, we're going to keep the knees straight, but not locked. And we're going to try and keep our pelvis where it is, and then swing our arms. So we're moving from the waist up. It's a little bit different than the first swinging twist we did where everything was moving. So how is it to, that's it, not move below the waist. Turn the shoulders, swing the arms, turn the head. Okay. Good. Let that one go. Bring your hands into prayer pose at your chest. I'm just going to turn around because we're going to be turning towards the front leg, and I realise I'm going to turn away from you if I do that. So from here, again, we're going to try not to move below the waist. We're going to keep our hands resting at our breastbone, and we're going to be turning towards our front leg. So it's the rib cage, the shoulders, the head that turn. We might feel we don't get very far. Keep the knees fairly straight, but not locked. Good. Good. And then when you turned as far as you can, let a breath come in. Good. And as you exhale, take your arms out to shoulder height. And then try to let the shoulders drop down. So maybe palms facing up. Good. Lovely. And have a breath also there. And then release your arms, come back to the center. And then you're going to fold forwards over your front leg and you're going to bend your front knee now. So as you go forwards, you might first of all come to rest on that bent front leg thigh. And then you could, if you like, release your arms and your head to the floor. So your chest comes quite close to your front thigh. And maybe have a big cycle or two of breath here. Keep rooted through your back heel, good. Just let yourself soften down, resting onto your bent front thigh. And coming up on an out breath, sinking down into both feet. See if you can come up without too much of a wobble. Yes, Nicola, blocks is a very good idea if you've got them to hand. So come back up, come back to feet being side by side and step your right foot forwards now. And come to this one where we come back to the sort of first thing we were doing But now with the right foot forwards, rocking our weight forwards and back. So just this intention that we're trying to really settle down into our feet. Our awareness is dropping hopefully out of our head into the soles of our feet, feeling the mat beneath our feet. Good. And then eventually, we could again carry on doing this all day, but eventually we'll settle the feet down. We'll have a sense of the pelvis and just trying to leave the pelvis where it is, have steady legs, planted feet, straight knees but not locked, and then swinging the arms. We swing the arms a little bit side to side. So this slightly funny movement where we're trying to move in the upper body but not the lower body. A little bit unnatural. Trying to stay very planted below the waist. Good. Try and keep those, yeah, very nice. And then let that go. Bring your hands into prayer pose, hands at the heart, at the breastbone, and then we'll turn towards the front leg. But again, we're trying not to move below the waist. We're trying to just move our ribs, our shoulders, our arms, obviously, our head. It's not particularly easy. We might not go that far. Let a breath come in as you exhale. Take your arms wide. Drop your shoulders. Very nice. Maybe let a breath come in. Let a breath leave you here. And then untwist. Let your front knee bend and start to fold forwards. So you might rest onto that bent front thigh with your forearms. And then if you like, you can fold further down so your chest comes closer to your thigh. It doesn't matter if, like Nicola, you have got blocks for your fingertips to come on, that might help you feel more steady. It doesn't matter because really, predominantly, we're trying to really steady ourselves through our legs and our feet. Maybe one more big cycle of breath here, big sighing breath, and then down into the feet. Come back up into standing. And have a little shake out. Because we're going to come back into that same foot position. So we're going to be stepping the left foot forwards. So back to stepping the left foot forwards. And back, if you like, to a little bit of toing and froing. But what I would like you to do eventually is settle down so your front knee is bent and your back leg is straight. And we're going to bring our hands into prayer pose at our heart again. So the thumbs resting on the breastbone. We're going to come into a balance now. So I think it's really helpful. I find it's helpful if my hands are sort of tucked out of the way in this position. So we're going to come from here, keeping the front knee bent. Come into this funny exaggerated running position where we've also bent our back knee. And from here, then we start to straighten but not lock both knees, reaching backwards with our raised heel and tilting forwards. Just can we come to a place where we feel long, a sort of long line from the crown of our head to our back heel, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave us. Very nice. Yes, beautiful, very nice, well done. Fantastic. Yes, yeah, good. Do come down and have a little shake out. And I'm just turning around. Actually, I don't need to turn around, that's fine. Come back, feet side by side. Step your right foot forwards. A little bit of toing and froing, if you like, rocking forwards and back. And then again, just settling, both feet on the floor. So remember, there's a bit of space sideways between your feet. Both feet are pointing forwards. We're going to be bending the front knee, keeping the back leg straight, bringing the hands into prayer pose. And so at this point, can we sort of feel settled and quiet? And then from here, we're going to be transferring our weight into that bent front leg. We'll straighten that knee in a moment. We have both knees bent in this funny sort of runner position. And then we start to sink into the standing heel and straighten that leg. And we reach the raised heel back behind us. And as we do so, our shoulders maybe tip forwards a little bit. And we're breathing ourselves long from our back heel to the crown of our head. Lovely, very nice. We might manage to have a breath or two there. Well done, good. Come down, have a little shake out. And then I say it's a breather, but you might not think so. You're going to take your feet a bit wider apart. So go long ways on your mat like me. And you're going to come into a forward bend with your feet this wide. So of course you can bend your knees if you prefer. And this, as I say, it's a little bit of a breather. So you're going to be folding into the forward bend. Find a sort of comfortable resting place for your hands. It could be on your ankles, it could be on the ground, you could hold your elbows, or if you're bending your knees, you could rest your elbows on your thighs. So just see how it feels to come forwards in your wide forward bend. And you want to make sure your weight's staying back in your heels. That's it, good. Good, yes, that's nice. May, you could have your hands around the back of your body as well. Lovely. So if you like this wide forward bend, then stay for a couple more breaths. You could, if you like, be shifting your weight from side to side, bending one knee, bending the other. You might want your fingertips on the floor for that, or on a block or a book. But obviously, I was going to say, if you're less happy here, then you don't have to stay. If it doesn't feel like much of a breather, then please do come up and have a little shake out. Good. But I know, yeah, some of you I know are rather keen on that one. So when you do come up, you're going to bring your feet back so they're a small distance apart. And we come back to, that's I suppose our little sort of cycle one. And we're going to come back to where we started with, which is our hands in prayer pose, our feet a little distance apart, just feeling ourselves in standing for a moment. So if you like, closing your eyes, you can sway a little bit from side to side. You can feel your feet on the ground, the contact of your hands together. And then if you are swaying, maybe settle down. Let your eyes open, let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall, drop your shoulders away from your ears and then rolling down, curling down into a forward bend, obviously resting your elbows on your thighs if you prefer. That's better for your lower back. And just, maybe this might feel a bit quieter than the wide forward bend. Just a breath or two in this forward bend. And then as you exhale, sinking into your heels, rolling back up into standing. Good. And taking your feet that little distance apart again. This is the medium distance apart, so as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. So we come back to our side lengthening movements here, reaching up through one arm, letting the other arm be floppy. And either going from side to side or staying for a couple of breaths or sort of mixing it up a little bit. If you like to shift your pelvis, things are riding up and down, good. A little bit from side to side. Doing something that feels comfortable and enjoyable in your body. And also this, these side lengthening movements I think are nice for waking us up. Okay. And then from here, we're going to come to stand. So we've got some mat in front of us so we can take a step forwards. So feet a little distance, side to side, the smallest distance, stepping the left foot forwards. And again, we could come back to just a little bit of this toing and froing we did before, rocking forwards and back, sort of dropping down into our feet. And again, we're going to be organising our legs so that our back leg is straight and our front knee is bent. And this time we're going to be folding forwards. So we're coming to lean forwards, rest onto that bent front thigh, either with our hands or with the forearms. And at this point, you want to think about your spine lengthening out and flattening, because we're going to be coming into a twist from here. So we're not trying to round and curve. We're letting our spine become long, straight, or maybe looking straight down at the floor next to our front foot. And then keep your left forearm or hand on your left thigh and bring the right hand onto the back of your pelvis. And we're then trying to turn towards the right, but just turn the rib cage and the shoulders, not below the waist again. Good, so turning towards the right. We could then release the left arm towards the floor. Could come onto the ankle, the shin, the fingertips on the floor, or you could let the arm hang. And the right arm, could come up towards the ceiling. So how does it feel to be in this twist now and to have a couple of breaths here? So remember, the back leg is straight, the front knee's bent, we've turned towards the right. We're trying to feel wide across the front of the shoulders. Very nice. Good. From here, when you've had enough, you're going to untwist and let yourself flop forwards over your front leg. Let your head go. So you've let your spine round now. And then sink into your heels. Come back up into standing. Good. And have a little shake out. And I'm just turning around so I don't have to turn away from you. We're going to do the other side. So come back to having your feet a little distance apart, side by side, like this. And you're then going to step your right foot forwards. And we'll do a little bit of rocking our weight forwards and back, just to help ourselves settle down. Good, and then we'll organise ourselves, back leg straight, front knee bent. We're trying to feel as planted as we can through the legs. So it is a bit of a balance, but we're on 2 feet, trying to be as steady as possible. Front knees bent, we're going to lean forwards, bend forwards, trying to keep the spine long and straight. Hands, forearms resting on that bent thigh, but still keeping really rooted through your back heel. So leave the right arm or hand on the front thigh, bring the left hand onto the back of your pelvis, start to turn towards the left, sending your left shoulder towards the ceiling. Then releasing the right arm to the floor. That's it. So fingertips can go onto the ankle, the shin, or the hand can just hang, left arm up towards the ceiling. Good. Just check in again with your legs, back leg straight, front knee bent. How steady do you feel through the lower part of your body? Very nice. And then from here, untwisting, flopping forwards over your front leg, having a couple of breaths there. And then sinking into your heels, coming up. Now, Nicola, it was a good, yes, have a little shake out. It was a smart move getting those blocks or books, because you may now want them for the next thing. So yes, I'll show you what we're going to do. And if you do want some, books or something under your fingertips. So some of you may have guessed, we're going to take that last twist into a balance, into the half moon balance. So from here, we're going to fold down, and we need to have both and bring our fingertips onto the floor. So this is when you might want books or blocks under your hands, so that we can shift our weight into our front foot and then bring our back leg up, and then maybe our other arm. Okay, so yes, grab, if you want something under your fingers, you may or may not. It sort of depends on our body proportions, all of these things. So we're going to be starting with the left foot stepped forwards, the left knee bent. And we're going to be going into a forward bend from here and bringing both lots of fingertips down onto the ground, because I think it's easier to take one leg off the ground if we've got both hands on the ground. But try to keep your weight mainly in your front knee, your front foot. You're going to probably need to bend your front knee more to be able to get your back leg off the ground. And then we're trying to roll our back pelvis. So you can still have your fingertips on the floor at this point or on the blocks. You're trying to roll your raised leg hip towards the ceiling. So you're opening the front of your pelvis. And then you try to take your other arm up towards the ceiling. So we've got the same arm and leg raised. We're opening through the front of our body into our beautiful half moon pose. But it's fine. It's fine if you keep both hands on the floor. Yes, or just for a moment. Well done. Well done. So what, yes, very nice. What my sort of top tips here? Top tips here are to make sure that when you've lifted a leg, that your weight is in your standing foot, not too much weight in your hands. And you're really reaching back behind you with the raised heel. Yes. Do it for a moment. Well done. Good. Yes, very nice, Francis. There's a moment. We might capture it for a moment. Now do remember in this one, if you've got a sort of empty wall space, you could do this against the wall. I don't really have one here, but you could be standing with your standing foot against the wall, and then you open out against the wall, and that obviously makes it a whole lot easier to balance. So if you do want to do that on side 2, you could. So we'll move on to side 2 when you're ready, which is going to be your right foot stepped forwards, the right knee bent. And again, have the blocks, I always think have the blocks fairly close to you so you're not having to reach forwards to them. But again, that might be different for different people. So remember, you're folding forwards, your front knee's bent, you're bringing your fingertips onto the floor or onto the blocks, and then you're bending that front knee more to help you bring your weight into the front foot and get the back foot off the ground. And then sometimes I just do a little bit of bouncing here, sort of bending my front knee and then straightening it, just to help myself a little bit more stable. Rolling the top hip up towards the ceiling. And then there's always that tricky bit, isn't there, of trying to bring the fingertips, one set of fingertips off the floor, up towards the ceiling. We might find that one side is a lot easier than the other. Well done, yes. Good. Very nice, well done. So Wednesdays, you always have this reputation of being the, it was lively and punctual when the classes were in my house. Well done. One last thing, you get to do one more wide forward bend. So you'll be thrilled to hear. So taking the feet wide apart. Exhaling, folding forwards. And just seeing how it feels to come back to that move. Good. Lovely. Very nice. And then what you'll probably be very pleased to hear about after this is, yes, we're all going to join Sarah in lying down on our backs. So we're going to do a couple of things. I'm just going to put the heating on. It seems boiling now. Okay, so lie down. So I thought after all that being a bit lively, we're going to lie down. And so let yourselves arrive on your back and just enjoy not trying to balance for a moment. We are going to do a couple of things. So if you want to put a blanket on, maybe put socks on, you can always put a blanket over your tummy. Because what I wanted us to do on our backs was to do some sort of taking our legs up to the ceiling things, which can feel really nice at the end of class, and particularly when we've done some rather strenuous things for the legs. But yeah, arrive on your back. Good. And maybe just settle for a moment, feel a couple of cycles of breath move through you. And if your legs are long, bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then fold one knee into your chest. I'm not going to say lefts or rights now. I'll just trust that you can do one leg and the other. That's it. So fold one knee into your chest. And then take that leg up towards the ceiling. And you could give it a little bit of a shake out. You could hold around the back of your thigh if you like, or hold somewhere onto your leg that's comfortable for you. You could circle your ankle. You could point that, so you don't have to, if you're comfortable taking your leg up and not holding on to it, that's absolutely fine. So just work out what's better for you. You could point your toes and point your heel. And then fold that knee back in towards your chest. So the same leg, same knees folded back in towards your chest. Good. And lengthen your other leg out on the ground. That's nice. Good. And then take that leg that was back up at the ceiling, take that leg back up again. So the same leg goes back up again. That's it. And just support the leg and see if you can let your leg rock a little bit from side to side in the hip joint. And the leg can be as bent or as straight as you like. That's it. That's it. So can the leg rock from side to side in the hip joint? Good. You might hold, around the back of your thigh. You might hold, so your trouser leg. I mean, some of you might, if it's easy to catch your big toe, you might do that. And if it's easy, good. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, May. Very nice. Good. That's it. And then just when you've had enough of that leg being up, let both legs be long on the ground for a moment. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Feel the length of yourself on the ground. And then bending both knees, standing both feet on the floor. Folding the other knee into your chest. So this is the leg that hasn't gone up to the ceiling yet. Good. And so when you're ready, you can take that leg up towards the ceiling. You can just how does it feel to take that leg up? Keep the knees bent as you like. You can shake the leg out. You can circle your ankle. You can hold around the back of your leg, or however you want to hold on your leg. You can point your toes, point your heel. That's a nice one. That would be nice for the walkers. Good. And you can then fold that knee back in towards your chest. Hold around the top of the knee. And then lengthen your other leg out on the floor. That's it. So other leg long on the ground. And then the leg that was up towards the ceiling is going back up towards the ceiling again, if you can bear that. That's it, with the other leg long on the ground. And this time, yes, it's that sort of rocking side to side. Can you find a way to let your leg rock side to side in your hip joint? Holding, that's it. That's quite nice, Jan, sort of rocking your leg into one hand and then the other. It might be that you catch your trouser leg or your big toe. Good, very nice. Lovely. And when you've had enough of that leg being up towards the ceiling, bring it down. Let both legs be long for a moment on the ground. Yes, and you can put blankets on if you like. We're going to do one more movement, which is just the bending both knees, standing both feet on the floor, a little bit of tilting the knees from side to side. So, and then we'll settle completely. So I just thought it might there. That's it. So settle, finish with that very simple movement where we let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. Good. That's nice. And so we're going to settle down now and just with a little bit of quiet breathing. So you can either lie with your knees bent, or with your legs long. And it's up to you, but I think it might be quite nice to rest with your hands on the front of your body. And yes, of course, put on warm things if you're not feeling, if you need more warm things, blankets, socks, jumpers. Settling down in a position that feels quiet and comfortable for you. And just we've moved quite a lot today, so I just wanted us to take a few minutes to lie quietly, just to let our bodies settle, to feel the movement of our breath through our bodies. So perhaps that's a good place to start, by gathering our attention into the feeling of the breath in the front of the body. So what do you notice? It could be the rise and fall of the belly, the widening of the ribs, the movement of the chest. We don't need to do anything to our breath. We don't need to change it in any way. We just allow the breath to be exactly as it is right now. And trust our bodies to breathe exactly as we need to right now. Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving us. We can let our awareness expand outward from the breath to sense the length of our body on the ground. So for a moment, feel the contact of your head, the back of your head on the ground, the back of your shoulders, the back of your pelvis, and all the way down to your heels or your footprints, depending on how you have your legs organized. See if you can feel the air on your skin, and if it's a bare skin. And to be aware of sounds around you, presence of other people, perhaps somewhere else in your house, somewhere else in your street, presence of animals. In a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. So just if you can, stay lying there until we reach the end of the 3rd sound. Thank you.